A young female engineer shares her unsettling experiences with harassment, igniting a bold social media movement that leads to unexpected consequences. Will she find empowerment or face new challenges? A bold decision. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, sharing my story. I remember sitting in my college dorm, a young woman studying computer engineering, hopeful and excited about the future. Little did I know, the tech world I dreamed of joining could be filled with so many unsettling experiences. After I graduated, I got my first job in the industry, and it didn't take long before I encountered my first creep. Over the years, I've collected a folder full of creepy texts and messages from men I've interacted with, classmates, colleagues, and even some who were just acquaintances. I'd screenshot every message I received, storing them in Google Drive, just in case things escalated. It's like I had my own digital arsenal ready to protect myself if needed. One night, after a few too many drinks with my friend, I found myself in a bad mood. We had been discussing her own experiences with harassment at her job, and it fueled my frustration. In a moment of defiance, I decided to upload the entire folder of screenshots to Facebook and Instagram, captioning it "Phone and Inbox of a Female Computer Engineer." I tagged every man whose message I had posted, thinking it might send a strong message. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was blowing up with notifications. I had planned to take the day off, but instead, I found myself amidst a storm of demands and pleas from the men I had tagged. Most were furious, especially the married ones whose wives had seen my posts. I felt a mix of empowerment and dread. Did I go too far? As I scrolled through the comments, I noticed a wave of support from friends and strangers alike. But then, an email from HR popped up in my inbox, asking me to come in first thing Monday morning. My heart raced. What did they want to discuss? I had no idea what to expect. Should I respond to the angry messages? Should I take the posts down or leave them up? I felt overwhelmed and unsure of my next move. Part 2. Facing the fallout. Monday arrived with a nervous energy. I had done my research over the weekend, diving deep into the company handbook and employment law. I wanted to be prepared for whatever HR might throw my way. I even compiled detailed accounts of the behavior of the men I had posted about, just for my own reference. I had a mix of feelings about the 4 coworkers from my current job whose texts I had shared. Coworker 1, who I had previously reported for harassment, had been moved to another team after I complained about him. He had contacted me multiple times, despite my requests to stop. Coworker 2, a married man, had asked me out to dinner, and I'd rejected him. He had been fired for unrelated reasons before I even thought about going to HR. Coworker 3 had sent me threatening messages after my post, and coworker 4 had shown interest in me outside of work but had been rude when I didn't respond. As I entered the HR office, I was ready to defend my actions. I had removed my posts on Sunday, hoping it would demonstrate good faith. HR's representative, Beth, greeted me warmly, but I could sense the seriousness of the situation. We went through each coworker one by one. Beth seemed particularly concerned when I shared the threats from coworker 3. I handed her the printed messages, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders as I presented the evidence. I was no longer just a victim. I was standing up for myself. Beth left the room to discuss the messages with her manager, and I sat there, my heart racing. What would happen next? Was I really going to be taken seriously? After what felt like an eternity, she returned, her expression grave. Coworker 3 had been escorted out of the building. He was fired, and it was clear that my post had triggered significant action. But there was still more to address. Beth wanted to discuss the other coworkers and why I hadn't reported their behaviors earlier. I explained that I believed their actions didn't constitute harassment according to the company policy. The incidents had been isolated and not severe enough to warrant an official complaint. Still, I felt the weight of their actions bearing down on me, and I couldn't shake the anxiety of what had just transpired. Part 3. The aftermath. As I walked out of the HR office, I felt a strange mix of relief and anxiety. Coworker 3 was gone, and I knew I had taken a stand against harassment. But would the others retaliate? My mind raced with possibilities. I decided to take the rest of the day off, as Beth suggested, just to give myself some space to breathe. At home, I reflected on everything that had happened. The support I had received online was heartwarming, but the fear lingered. I had received a few angry texts from the men I had exposed, but I chose to ignore them. I didn't owe them an explanation or an apology. I knew I had done the right thing by speaking up, but it was hard not to feel guilty. Later that week, I received a call from my college. They wanted to discuss my former TA, who had been implicated in similar behavior. It turned out he was still harassing students, and they had seen my post as an opportunity to take action. I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. My decision to share my experiences was making waves beyond my immediate situation. However, not all responses were supportive. Several men I had tagged sent messages about privacy and respect. They claimed I had violated trust by sharing private conversations. I could hardly believe their audacity. Did they seriously think they had the right to dictate how I handled their harassment? But the most troubling message came from a married man I had met during an internship. He sent me a barrage of angry and threatening texts, clearly upset about the fallout in his marriage. I felt a chill run down my spine. Was I safe? I had to take precautions now, always looking over my shoulder when I left my apartment. Part 4. A new level of awareness. As days turned into weeks, I found myself in a constant state of vigilance. I began to notice things I had never paid attention to before. The way men looked at me on the street, the comments made in passing conversations, and the subtle signs of unwanted attention. I had opened a Pandora's box and now I couldn't close it. Friends and family rallied around me, offering their support. They encouraged me to share my story more widely, to help others feel less alone in their experiences. I started to think about how I could use my voice to empower other women in the tech industry. I wanted to create a safe space where they could share their stories without fear of judgment or retaliation. One evening, I decided to attend a local tech meetup. I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. It was a chance for me to network and meet new people, but I was still on edge. Would I encounter more creeps, or would I find allies? As I walked into the venue, I felt my heart race. The event was buzzing with energy, and I found myself chatting with a few women who shared their own stories of harassment. It felt liberating to connect with others who understood what I had been through. We exchanged tips on how to deal with unwanted attention and discussed the importance of speaking up. But just as I was starting to feel empowered, I noticed a familiar face in the crowd. It was coworker 1, the one I had previously reported. My heart sank. Why was he here? Did he have the audacity to show up after everything that had happened? Part 5. Confrontation. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as I watched coworker 1 mingle with others, completely oblivious to the storm of emotions brewing inside me. Part of me wanted to confront him, to tell him how his actions had affected my life and my career. But another part of me was terrified. I had already taken a stand. Did I really want to escalate things further? As the evening progressed, I found myself gravitating towards a group of supportive women who were discussing their experiences in the tech industry. They were fierce and unapologetic, and I felt emboldened by their energy. I shared my story with them, detailing everything that had happened with coworker 1 and the fallout from my post. They listened intently, nodding in understanding. One of the women, a seasoned engineer, encouraged me to approach coworker 1. You have every right to stand up for yourself. Don't let him intimidate you. You're stronger than you think, she said, her voice unwavering. With her words echoing in my mind, I made my way over to him, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached, he turned to me, a look of surprise crossing his face. What are you doing here? He asked, feigning innocent. I took a deep breath, gathering all my courage. I'm here because I refuse to let you or anyone else dictate how I feel about my experiences. You crossed a line, and I'm not afraid to speak out about it anymore, I said, my voice steady. His demeanor shifted, and I could see a flicker of anger in his eyes. You shouldn't have posted those texts. It was private, he snapped back. I stood my ground, feeling the support of the women around me. No, it was harassment, and I have every right to share my experiences. You can't silence me anymore. With that, I turned on my heel and walked away, feeling a sense of liberation wash over me. Part 6. A new chapter. In the weeks that followed, I noticed a shift in my confidence. I had faced my fears and confronted the very people who had tried to silence me for too long. Started to speak at local events about the importance of addressing harassment in the workplace and sharing my story. The more I shared, the more empowered I felt, and I discovered that my voice could inspire others. I even began working with a few organizations that focused on supporting women in tech, helping them navigate the challenges I had faced. It was fulfilling to know that I was making a difference, even if it was just one person at a time. I also took the time to re-evaluate my own boundaries. I learned to trust my instincts and speak out when something felt off. No longer would I tolerate unwanted advances or harassment in silence. I had reclaimed my narrative, and it felt incredible. My story served as a reminder to others that they are not alone. I received messages from women who resonated with my experiences, thanking me for giving them the courage to speak up. It was a beautiful cycle of empowerment, and I was grateful to be a part of it. In the end, I realized that sharing my story was not just about me. It was about creating a movement of change. I had turned my pain into power, and I was ready to face whatever came next with my head held high. No more hiding, no more silence. I was a force to be reckoned with, and I was ready to take on the world.